The fog came in early, not thick, but enough to mute the light and flatten the edges of the water. It rolled across the harbor slow and wide, swallowing masts and pilings, tugging a thin dampness into every wooden beam and wool sleeve. Owen Kilroy moved through it without hurry. He wore his usual canvas jacket with the lining gone, a mariner's cap without the logo, boots that had known salt longer than they'd known land. He walked with his hands in his pockets, boots scuffing grit across the uneven planks of the dock. The town had been up for an hour, but you wouldn't know it. The crabbers moved in silence, hauling gear like monks shifting pews. He passed the bait shack and nodded to Gino, who nodded back. That was their conversation for the day. At the end of the dock, a small aluminum skiff bobbed without rhythm. Owen climbed in. The air smelled of diesel and fish oil, and the ropes were stiff with salt. He uncoiled one, fed it through the cleat, and tied off with one hand while the other lit a match against his boot heel. He didn't smoke. The match was for the gulls, to keep them away while he worked. The crates were stacked from the night before. Halibut mostly, some rockfish. He moved them without speaking, without counting, from dock to dolly, dolly to truck. The muscles in his back worked on their own. No grunting, no hurry. He was not fast, but he never stopped moving. By 7:30, the sun had climbed just enough to bleed through the fog. It burned a pale circle behind the clouds, a coin held to a frosted window. Owen wiped his hands on his pants and stood facing the water. The tide was low. The boats sat crooked in the shallows like horses asleep on their sides. There were voices behind him, far off, but he didn't turn, he rarely did. A gull screamed, another answered. Beneath their cries, the deeper rhythm held, ropes creaking, water slapping the pilings, the faint hum of an engine somewhere not yet visible. This was his morning, most mornings. He didn't mind it, didn't name it. He only knew the quiet had weight, and some days it pressed heavier than others. Today it pressed light. He ate lunch the same place he always did, back behind the bait shack, near the storm wall where the beach curved out toward the headland. Nobody came back there unless they were drunk, lost, or 17 and lying to their parents. Owen liked it for the stillness. The smell was sharp, kelp and rust. But he didn't mind. He sat on an overturned crate, the sandwich wrapped in waxed paper resting on his thigh. 2 eggs, mustard, a slice of last night's cod. The bread was stale. He chewed slowly, staring out over the water. The tide had come up since morning. The waves now touched the black rock halfway up the bluff. A small clatter of pebbles shifted under his boots when he leaned forward. He wiped his mouth, stood, stretched. Then, without any real thought, he bent down and picked up a smooth gray rock, about the size of his palm, cold and a little damp. He looked at it once, turned it over in his hand, and threw. It went farther than it should have. Not a skip, no arc for bouncing. It cut straight through the air, rising and holding like a bullet through fog. He lost sight of it after 3 seconds. There was no splash, just the sound of his own breath as he exhaled, slowly. He frowned, picked up another, threw. This one even cleaner, no tail, no wobble. His arm didn't strain. It was the kind of throw you make in anger or instinct. But he wasn't angry. He wasn't anything. One more, then another. Each stone flew the same way, fast, flat, and frighteningly far. He wasn't aiming. There was no tension in his shoulder, no whip of the elbow. The release point felt natural, almost remembered. He kept going, 6 throws, then 8. Then he stopped, not because he was tired, but because it felt like a ritual he didn't understand. He stood still. The sea made no comment. From above, near the old wooden path that ran along the edge of the bluff, someone shifted their weight. Owen turned his head slowly. There was a man standing up there, gray jacket, beat-up hat, hands in his coat pockets. Not moving, just watching. Maybe he'd been there a while. Owen waited. The man didn't call out. After a moment, Owen picked up the last stone near his foot. He looked at it, then let it fall back to the sand. He sat down on the crate and finished his sandwich without looking up again. The sand shifted in a soft crunch behind him. Footsteps, slow and sure. Owen didn't turn. He folded the wax paper from his sandwich into a square and tucked it into his coat pocket. "You don't wind up," the voice said. Low, calm, slight rasp. The man stepped into view, not close, 15-20 feet away. Stopped just past the edge of Owen's vision. His coat was old army green, sleeves frayed. A canvas bag hung off one shoulder. His boots were muddy, face weathered, unshaven but not unclean. His eyes were the only thing sharp. Owen looked up at him, blinked once. "You should," the man said. "Wind up, I mean. That's how they do it. High leg kick, arm up behind the ear, big motion, showy." He paused. "You just let it go." Owen said nothing. The man dug into his bag, pulled something out, and tossed it underhand toward him. Owen caught it without thinking. A glove, old, oiled into near blackness, laces retied with fishing twine, the kind of leather that's been worked over by time and care, not money. "You ever feel something in your hand and know it belongs there?" the man asked. Owen looked at the glove, turned it in his palm once, flexed it. "It's not for sale," the man said. "Just didn't want it to die in the bag." Silence stretched. The gulls barked again. The sea beyond them kept pulling and returning, pulling and returning. Owen finally asked, "You play?" The man smiled, barely. "Once." "Majors?" The man shook his head. "AAA, Kansas City system. Long time ago. I was a catcher, had a good eye. Bad knees." He didn't offer a name. Owen didn't ask. Instead, he set the glove on his lap. The man nodded toward the bluff. "You've thrown before?" "No." "Not even as a kid?" "No." The man studied him for a moment. Not suspicious. Curious, maybe. Or trying not to look impressed. "Well," he said finally, "it looked like it wasn't the first time." Owen didn't respond. The man stepped back a little. "There's a field off Humboldt. Little sandlot behind the shuttered lumber yard. Doesn't get much use. Mostly kids smoking behind the fence. I'll be there around 5. He tapped the brim of his cap, not quite a salute. "You come, you come." Then he turned, climbed back up the bluff trail without looking back. Owen sat there for a long time after he was gone. The glove stayed on his lap. He didn't squeeze it, didn't sniff it, just let it rest there, like it had landed. He clocked out just after 4. The dock lights buzzed with flies and sea gnats, their filaments dimmed by the fog. A rusted bell rang once near the ice bins. The tide was back up. Boats bobbed against their ropes like restless cattle. Owen slipped the glove inside his coat, cradled against his ribs like something fragile. He walked past the bait shack. Gino raised 2 fingers. Owen nodded. He cut through the gravel lot behind the bar where the jukebox never worked and past the old cannery road with its broken signs. There was a woman sweeping dust from her stoop with a broken broom. A stray cat followed her motion, eyes narrow. A man in a windbreaker coughed into the fog and kept walking. No one spoke. The glove pressed against his ribs with each step. Not heavy, not light, just present. Home was a slouching wooden house near the edge of town. Salt-stained siding, a roof repaired with tin and tar. The porch creaked when he stepped on it. It always had. His uncle was at the table, same as most evenings. steel thermos, fish paper rolled out with notes in pencil, some kind of ledger. The kitchen smelled of tinned tomatoes and something fried. Owen hung his coat and the glove with it. Didn't mention it. They ate without words. Fried potatoes, cold beans, a thick slice of bread, toasted in a pan. The fork clicks were the loudest sound in the room. Neither man chewed loud. They rarely said anything after 5 p.m., and it wasn't because they were angry. It was just how the walls worked. After dinner, Owen cleared the plates. His uncle lit a cigarette, stared at the same spot in the table he always stared at, as if something had once happened there and he was waiting for it to happen again. Owen's room was upstairs, low ceiling, one narrow window facing west, where the sea was just visible through the pines. He had a mattress on a wooden frame, a chair, and a crate full of old books with no spines. He unhooked his coat from the peg and slid the glove out from its fold. Held it in both hands. He set it on the floor beside the bed. Then lay down. The wind ticked against the glass. He didn't fall asleep. He kept reaching toward the glove. Not to hold it. Not to use it. Just to feel if it was still there. It always was. By the time the light came, it was the kind of gray that makes you wonder if the sun forgot. Owen dressed without turning on the lamp. The glove lay on the floor where he'd left it. He picked it up and held it a second longer than he meant to, then slipped it into the inside pocket of his coat, like he'd done it 100 times. Downstairs, the house was still. His uncle had left early. There was a thermos on the counter and a note beneath it that just said, "Tides high." Owen sat at the table and ate cold bread with honey. The knife stuck in the jar when he tried to stir it. He left it that way. Outside, the fog had thickened. The harbor was only suggestion, the tops of masts like nails through cotton. The gulls hadn't started in yet. The air was wet enough to feel like breath. He walked past the bait shack. Gino wasn't out front. He passed the cannery road, the corner store, the bakery with its metal shutter drawn halfway, like a curtain mid-act. Then he came to the fork. The left path sloped down toward the docks, wide, well-worn, gravel-beaten flat by decades of boots and crates. The right path curled uphill, past the lumber yard that had gone bankrupt when Owen was 11. The lot beyond it had been cleared once a week by kids with brooms and dreams. He stood there a moment, both hands in his coat. A truck groaned awake somewhere to the south. A dog barked once, then gave up. Owen looked left, looked right. Then he turned right. The gravel crunched finer under his boots as he passed the old lumberyard gates. Chain-link fence sagged along the sides, rust curling it like burnt paper. Past that, the path turned to weeds and cracked blacktop. Blackberry vines grew wild through the fence posts. Somebody had tried to clear them once. They'd come back stronger. The field wasn't much. Chain-link backstop bent at the corners. The dirt infield had turned half to grass, the outfield a quilt of moss, wild clover, and dandelions that leaned when you breathed too close. A bench, broken in the middle, sat beneath a leaning scoreboard with no numbers left. Hal stood behind home plate, jacket off, sleeves rolled. He was smoothing the dirt with the sole of his boot. A bag sat beside him. 2 bats leaned against the backstop, along with a bucket of baseballs that had been scrubbed to bone white by time. Owen stopped just inside the fence. Hal looked up once, gave a half nod, went back to smoothing the dirt. No, glad you came. No handshakes. Owen walked to the bench, set his coat down. The glove slid out and landed soft against the wood. He picked it up and held it. Not like something sacred, just like something that might break if handled wrong. You warm? Hal asked. Owen looked down at his arms. I'm fine. Good, Hal said. He picked up a bat. Let's see how it moves. He walked it over like a man carrying firewood, held it out handle first. Owen took it. It wasn't light. Hickory, dark-grained, taped at the knob. The weight sat deep in the barrel. Stand here, Hal said, nodding to a spot where he'd drawn a crooked line with his heel. Back foot there, front here. Owen stepped in. Bat up level, elbow loose, don't swing yet. Hal stepped back, pulled a ball from his jacket pocket, tossed it underhand, slow, lazy arc. Owen didn't move. Good, Hal said. Again. Another toss. This time Owen shifted his weight, not a full swing, just a tilt of the shoulder, the beginning of one. His hands moved without asking. All right, Hal said. Now go. Third pitch. Owen swung. The sound was clean, not loud, just clean, like a sharp knife through damp paper. The ball took off toward right field and landed beyond the fence, silent in the fog. Hal didn't react. Owen stepped back, blinked once. Again, Hal said, and he tossed another. Owen swung again. Line drive, dead center, no flourish, just motion, again and again. Each swing the same, not in form but in outcome. The ball did what it was told. Hal didn't say a word. After 10 swings, Owen stepped out of the box. His breath hadn't quickened. His hands were steady. You played before, Hal said. Not a question. No, Owen said. Hal stared at him a moment and then, come take the mound. The mound was barely there. Just a rise in the earth, tamped flat by weather and inattention. A few broken clumps of old chalk marked where the rubber used to be. Hal pointed at a rust-colored stain in the dirt. Stand there. Face me, glove up. Owen stepped onto the spot and adjusted without knowing why. His feet found a posture that felt balanced. His right hand found the ball. The leather was smooth and dry, a little smaller than he expected. He raised the glove, looked at Hal, who had moved behind an old milk crate set up as a plate. No mask, no gear, just squatted there, one hand down, the other open. Throw it, Hal said. No wind-up, no pause, just a breath in. And then his body remembered something his mind never knew. The ball exploded from his hand. It didn't sail, it didn't float. It cut through the air like a line drawn by a blade. Hal didn't flinch. The ball slammed into the glove with a sound like a branch cracking under snow. The echo rolled across the empty lot and disappeared into the trees. Hal stood, shook his hand out once, didn't speak. Owen rolled his shoulder once, not stiff, just curious. Hal walked back to the bucket, pulled out another ball, tossed it to him underhand. Again. Owen nodded. No stance, just the motion. Second pitch, faster, truer. This time Hal shifted his weight a little after the catch, like someone absorbing a blow without wanting to show it. Owen said nothing, but he felt something. A vibration through his fingers, into his arm. Not pain, just signal. Third pitch. The birds that had been roosting along the outfield fence scattered. Hal stood. No need to kill me, he said, flexing his catching hand. Owen waited. Hal walked toward him slowly, eyes on the ground. He stopped 10 feet away, arms crossed. Your elbow doesn't lag. That's rare. Most kids your age throw from the shoulder. You don't. Owen blinked. You know what you're doing? No. Hal nodded once, looking out toward the clover in right field where one of the earlier swings had landed. Good, he said. Then he tossed him another ball. Let's see if it holds. They didn't talk much after that. Hal fed grounders from shallow left with a smooth underhand toss, and Owen fielded them without flair, glove low, knees bent, feet adjusting not by instinct but by something deeper, as if his body had already solved the geometry before the ball had left the hand. He never double-clutched. He never looked surprised. Hal moved to shortstop, hit slow rollers with a fungo bat, and watched Owen charge, scoop, and fire to the crate at home without missing a step. The sound of the ball against the wood crate was clean, echoing, again and again. The glove made no sound. The throws cracked the air. At one point, Hal stopped, rubbed his forehead with his sleeve like he was trying to push out a thought that didn't fit. "You ever watch a game on TV?" he asked, not looking at him. Owen wiped dust from his knee. "Sometimes." "You ever think about playing?" "No." Hal picked up another ball, turned it over once in his hand. "You think you could throw like that again tomorrow?" Owen looked at him. "I don't know." Hal nodded like that was the right answer. They went back to the drills. Pop flies now, then bunts, then double play flips that Hal simulated with odd angles and throws meant to catch Owen off balance. None of them did. After an hour, Hal stopped hitting, just stood with the bat resting against his shoulder. His breath was louder now, but not labored, just heavier. "You're not learning anything," he said quietly. "You're remembering." Owen squinted at the sun as it pushed halfway through the fog. "I don't remember any of this." Hal gave a one-sided shrug. "Doesn't mean it's not there." He let the bat fall gently to the ground, walked back to the bucket, dropped the last few balls in, and sat on the bench. Owen stood it short, glove tucked under one arm, dust in his hair. They didn't say anything for a long time. Hal finally looked up. His voice was flat, calm. "You free tomorrow?" Owen nodded. "Same time. Bring the glove." Owen nodded again. Hal leaned back on the bench like he'd just unloaded something heavy. "All right then." Hal didn't stand when Owen walked toward the bench. He just reached into the bucket and pulled out a ball. Scuffed, seams loose, a faint blue ink smudge on one side, and handed it over without ceremony. "You hang on to that." Owen took it, turned it in his hand once, twice. The leather was warmer than he expected. He didn't ask why it mattered. Hal didn't say. Owen set the glove inside his coat, the ball in the pocket. No words passed. As he stepped through the gap in the backstop fence, Hal spoke again. Not loud, almost like talking to himself. "Same time?" "Doesn't matter if it rains." Owen paused, then nodded once without turning and kept walking. The gravel was softer now. The fog had lifted just enough to let the sun sketch shapes onto the cracked blacktop. He passed the lumber yard, its rotted boards stacked like forgotten plans. The blackberry vines rustled. A crow took off from a post and flew low across the fence line, wings slow and uneven. Each step home felt longer than it had that morning, not heavier, not lighter, just longer. At the fork, he didn't hesitate, turned left this time, toward the docks, toward what he already knew. But the ball in his pocket shifted with each step, like it was reminding him of itself. And somewhere in his arm, just below the shoulder, just above the elbow, he could still feel the echo of that first pitch. It wasn't pain. It was memory. The bus hissed and sighed like it hated where it had landed. Owen stepped down last. His boots hit the pavement soft, but the heat hit harder, a wide, dry slap across the face. Texas heat didn't sweat. It baked. It pressed from above and below, from sky and concrete both. The air didn't move. It shimmered, The station was a squat brown box on the edge of a flat horizon. No trees, no wind. The distant buildings looked temporary. Bleached signs, sagging awnings, dead grass clawing at chain link. 3 other kids from the draft class were there, all loud, all talking over one another. "Can't believe I got catcher. I told them I pitched in high school. They said we get a per diem, but I haven't seen." "Met a girl on the bus from El Paso, man. She had—" Owen didn't answer. No one asked. A man in shorts and a club-issued polo waved them toward a rust-flecked van idling at the curb. "Let's go, boys. Gear in the back. Roster meeting in an hour." The van smelled like sunflower seeds, Gatorade, and something dying under the seat. The radio played country 2 clicks too loud. Owen sat in the far back, window down. The glove was in his duffel, the ball in his coat pocket, which he kept folded in his lap even though it was too hot to wear. They passed a gas station, a strip club with blacked-out windows, and a taco stand with no name. Billboards promised air conditioning and divine salvation. None delivered. The other players kept talking. Owen looked out the window. Everything was flat. Not just the land, the light too, flat and wide and endless. They gave him a uniform with the wrong name on the back, Kilray. He didn't correct them. The field was dust and wire, chain link all the way around, bleachers like cattle pens, red dirt that baked into a crust by noon. The dugouts had no shade. Water jugs sweated harder than the players. Bats leaned against the wall like rifles. Coaches barked. Everyone hustled. You were supposed to look fast, even when you weren't moving. Owen stayed quiet. They ran sprints. He didn't win. He didn't lose. He stayed middle of the pack, like someone who didn't understand competition as a concept. They did throwing drills. 1-hop throws from short to first, catch and release timing. Most guys grunted, crow-hopped, overthrew. Owen didn't. No wasted motion. The ball left his hand like it wanted to leave. One coach, Coach Rios, said, "That's a pretty little line you've got there." Owen didn't answer. He just moved to the next cone. Later, they hit in cages. The sound in the cage was its own kind of music, metal on leather, dirt against cleats, voices echoing off steel. Owen stepped in last. Coach Deeks fed him the first pitch underhand. Slow. Inside. Owen didn't swing, second pitch. Outside. He let it pass. Third pitch, belt high. Owen's swing was slow and flat, effortless. The ball cracked and hit the back of the cage hard enough to rattle the bolts. Coach Deeks blinked. All right. He fed another. Same swing, same result. No load, no torque. Just clean rhythm, like he'd never learned to hit the wrong way. By the 5th swing, no one in the cage was talking. By the 8th, the other players were pretending not to watch. By the 10th, Coach Deeks said, "Okay, that's enough," even though there were balls left in the bucket. Owen stepped out, took off his helmet, put it back on the hook. Coach Rios leaned in and whispered something to Deeks. Deeks nodded but kept watching Owen like he wasn't sure what he'd seen. Owen walked back to the dugout alone. No swagger, no expression, just quiet feet and dust behind him. They gave him number 61, too high for someone who mattered. The jersey didn't quite fit, hung off his shoulders like borrowed clothes. He didn't tuck it in. The crowd was thin, locals, mostly, a few kids with gloves, a drunk with a sunburn and a cowbell, 3 scouts trying not to look like scouts. The national anthem played on a tape with warble in the high notes. Someone sang along 2 keys low. Owen started at DH. The pitcher on the other team, skinny, gum-chewing, name stitched on his glove, laughed when Owen stepped in. "Jesus," he said to the catcher. This kid even blink? Owen didn't blink. First pitch, fastball inside. He didn't move. Second pitch, fastball again, middle. Owen swung. The sound wasn't loud, it was clear. A short, sharp crack that didn't echo, just traveled. The ball rose like it had been waiting. Left fielder jogged 5 steps, then stopped. It hit halfway up the fence. Double. Owen stood on second, breathing slow, hands loose at his sides. The first baseman shouted something. Owen didn't turn. Next, at bat, he walked on 4 pitches. Then they put him on the mound. No warm-up fanfare. Just a few tosses, 1 curve that broke late, and a fastball that popped so loud the catcher flinched. He struck out the first batter on 3 pitches. Second guy fouled one off, then swung over a changeup. Third guy tried to bunt and missed everything. The crowd clapped slow, confused. Coach Rios just stared. In the dugout, a kid from Alabama slapped Owen's shoulder. "Man, what the hell are you?" Owen wiped his hand on his pants, sat down, didn't answer. He looked out over the field like he hadn't been playing on it, just watching it happen. Like it was a movie someone else starred in. They didn't swarm, not yet. At first it was just one guy with a notebook who showed up 2 days in a row and didn't ask questions. He sat by the bullpen, scribbling after every pitch, chewing on a toothpick like it held answers. Then there were 2 guys with radar guns, then 3. Then someone in a team jacket, not theirs, started watching from the lot behind left field, sitting on the hood of a car with binoculars and a Coke. By the 5th game, a kid from Amarillo called his uncle in Chicago and said, "You ever seen a ball disappear?" After the 6th, Coach Rios stopped yelling during drills. He just walked behind Owen as he pitched live BP and said nothing. No critique, no clock, just watching the shape of the ball. And one night, after a 7-strikeout performance and a line drive double that hit the fence before the left fielder moved, Coach Deeks came into the locker room with a folded piece of paper. "Story ran in the Chronicle this morning," he said, holding it up. "Says you throw like silence." Some guys laughed. One said, "Hell does that mean?" No one asked Owen. He was sitting by his locker, rubbing pine tar between his fingers like he was trying to remember something. He looked up at the sound of his name but didn't react. Deeks tossed the paper onto the bench. "Paper also says we're going to have visitors." "Scouts?" someone said. "No," Deeks said, "real ones." Jesse Kane showed up in a black Porsche that didn't belong on Texas dirt. He stepped out wearing sunglasses, sleeves rolled, forearms brown and roped with veins. He wore his big league team's logo like it was painted on him, hair perfect, stubble perfect, smile like it had been coached. Some guys whistled, some straightened up. A few tried not to look at all. He walked like the field owed him something. "Look who's gracing us," someone muttered near the batting cage. Jesse didn't speak to the rookies at first. He shook hands with Coach Rios, did a quick jog in the outfield, stretched his hamstrings with the kind of casual violence that only came from years of doing nothing else. Then he hit BP, and the balls flew. Big, high shots to center, lasers to the gap, one off the light pole. The dugout clapped. One guy said, "That's different, man. That's real." Owen sat on the far end, lacing his cleats slower than necessary. He hadn't looked up once. Jesse came in after 20 swings, poured water over his head, towel around his neck. Coach Deeks walked over, said, "Owen, you're up." Owen stood, quiet, moved to the cage. Jesse glanced at him, then did a double take. "Wait," Jesse said. "This the kid?" Deeks nodded. "That's Kilroy." "It's Kilroy?" Jesse repeated, slow. "He looks like he cuts bait for a living." No one laughed. Owen picked up a bat, no response, no expression. Jesse leaned against the bench, arms folded, sunglasses still on. "You hit like they say, kid?" Owen looked at him just once. Not up, not down, just flat. Then he stepped in. Coach Rios flipped him the first pitch. Line drive, low and fast. Second, another. Third, pulled to the corner. Fourth, off the back wall. Owen stepped out after 5 swings. Quiet, efficient. Jesse hadn't moved, just watched. When Owen walked past him, Jesse said, "You always that quiet?" Owen didn't stop. Didn't look at him, just said, "You always that loud?" Then he walked into the dugout and sat down. The silence after lasted longer than it should have. Jesse pulled off his sunglasses, and for the first time all day, he didn't smile. The game ended the way most of Owen's games ended, fast and quiet. 8 strikeouts, 2 hits, 1 walk. A line drive single to right in the 7th that scored 2. He didn't look at the scoreboard, didn't smile crossing the plate. Just sat down, took off his batting gloves, and stared at the dirt between his cleats. Coach Rios came into the dugout in the 8th. Didn't say anything, just stood near the Gatorade cooler with his arms folded. When the final out dropped, Rios turned to him and said, "Clubhouse. Now." Owen followed. His cleats clicked on the concrete tunnel. The air got cooler near the hallway. The walls were painted with the team's logo, flaking in places like it had been painted by belief, not money. Inside the office, Coach Deeks was already seated. The field lights from outside pulsed through the blinds, casting stripes across the desk. Rios closed the door behind them. Deeks didn't clear his throat, didn't shift in his seat. He just looked at Owen like someone looks at a photograph they didn't know they owned. "You're leaving," Deeks said. Owen blinked once. "Chicago called. You're up tomorrow." A pause, the kind that's supposed to carry emotion. Owen just said, "Okay." Rios sat on the edge of the desk and exhaled. "You ever flown before?" Owen shook his head. Rios scratched his jaw. "You got a suit?" "No. You'll need one." Owen nodded. They waited for him to say something more. He didn't. After a moment, Rios stood and opened the door. The hallway was louder now. Word had spread fast. The other players were leaning around corners, arms crossed, pretending not to watch. When Owen stepped out, they clapped. Not rowdy, not dramatic. Just palms and fingers and a few slaps on the back. The kid from Alabama muttered, "Go turn the world upside down, man." Owen looked at him, then down at his hands, then back toward the light leaking through the open door. Chicago was too clean. That was the first thing he noticed stepping off the plane. Not the noise, not the buildings, the shine. The cab took him from the airport through a highway that pulsed with movement, billboards flashing real estate smiles and hot dog slogans. The city rose out of the gray like a machine waking up. At the stadium gate, someone in a blazer and headset met him. He didn't introduce himself, just looked down at a clipboard and said, "This way." They walked through a private tunnel, concrete polished like marble, no dirt, no stray seeds. The walls were lined with framed photos of men in poses that had been practiced for decades. Then the locker room. Bright, cold, fluorescent. Not a smell of pine tar or sweat, just air conditioning and detergent. Rows of lockers, logos on everything. Shiny shoes, unopened bats, towels folded with hotel precision. His name was on a plate above a locker near the end of the row. Kilroy, spelled right this time. Number 17, inside, jersey, cleats, batting gloves, and a stitched cap. All of it clean enough to seem unused. Owen ran a finger along the bill of the cap. Not reverent, just curious. He put it on. It fit. A few players nodded. One said, "You're the kid?" with the same tone people use for weather rumors. Owen nodded back. Didn't speak. He sat on the wooden bench, pulled off his boots, and laced the new cleats slowly. The tongue of the left shoe caught on the seam. He smoothed it. Across the room, someone was laughing too loud. Music played from a speaker he couldn't see. He picked up the jersey, turned it in his hands, held it to the light like he expected to see through it. He didn't hang it in his locker. He just pulled it on. No mirror, no pictures, just a number, and the quiet weight of fabric on skin. He stood in the tunnel while the announcer stretched his name like gum. Now pitching, making his major league debut. The words echoed and vanished. Owen blinked once, cracked his neck left, then right, then walked out. The lights didn't just shine, they pressed. There were so many of them, stadium bulbs like stars forced too close. They made the grass look fake and the air look painted. The field was too green, the infield dirt too smooth. Everything was too much. Except the mound. The mound was the right height. He stepped onto it, planted, dragged his toe once. Out of habit, he didn't remember forming. The batter stepped in. Lefty. Number 34. Big wrists, fast hands, probably cocky. Owen didn't look at him. He looked at the catcher's glove. First pitch. Fastball, high inside. He didn't throw it hard, he just let it go. Pop. The crowd made a sound that wasn't cheer or gasp, just noise. That split-second rise in volume when something unexpected happens and people haven't agreed on how to feel yet. Second pitch. Curveball. Dropped like a pulled string. Swing. Miss. The third was a changeup that looked like mercy until it wasn't. Strike 3. The batter walked away slowly, chewing something that wasn't there. Owen didn't watch him go. Just waited. Next batter. Another strikeout. The third put a bat on the ball. A chopper to short. Easy throw. Inning over. Owen walked off the mound without looking at the crowd. In the dugout, no one clapped. They were watching too closely to remember how. He sat, took off his cap, rolled it in his hands once. Top of the third, they told him to grab a bat. He didn't use pine tar, didn't use a donut, didn't take practice swings. First pitch, swing. Line drive, right field, one hop to the wall. Stand-up double. The crowd finally found a sound, something between disbelief and hunger. Owen stood on second, tugged at his jersey once, and looked out past center field like he was trying to remember the weather. He didn't smile. He didn't need to. By the time he stepped into the clubhouse, there were already reporters waiting. Microphones, cameras, men in polos who had never touched a glove asking questions too fast to hear the answers. What was going through your mind during... Did you expect to hit like that? Talk us through the curveball in the second. Are you the next? Owen stood there blinking against the flashes, sweat cooling on his neck. A PR guy stepped between him and the mob. One question at a time. Owen said nothing. Someone asked, "How did it feel?" He thought about that one and then said, "Light." What does that mean? He didn't answer. The catcher, Briggs, came up beside him and slapped him on the back. "Kid throws like he's skipping stones on a pond full of ghosts," he said to the crowd, grinning. "Write that down." Laughter. Owen stepped sideways and sat on a bench near his locker, untied his cleats, took off the jersey, folded it once. The rest of the team was buzzing. Loud music. Towels flying. Two guys started arguing over who called the home run. One of them shouted, "Rookie's got ice in his veins." Owen looked down at his hands. Dirt under his thumbnail. A scratch across his knuckle he didn't remember getting. He sat still. No one noticed he wasn't moving. Not until the music stopped and someone called across the room. "Hey, Kilroy, you coming out with us?" He looked up. "What for?" "Celebrating." He didn't speak. The room went quiet for a beat, like it couldn't decide whether he was kidding. Then laughter again. "Man, he's serious." Owen stood, grabbed his coat, walked past the cameras. Someone shouted his name. He didn't turn. The hotel was tall, expensive, and full of mirrors. Owen checked in under his own name. The front desk clerk said, "Congratulations, Mr. Kilroy," without looking him in the eye. He took the elevator to the 22nd floor. The hallway was carpeted in patterns that didn't quite repeat. His room key clicked once. The door opened too smoothly. Inside, silence. Muted skyline through the floor-to-ceiling window. A bed that hadn't earned its space. A minibar he wouldn't open. A landline phone blinking red. He dropped his bag, sat on the edge of the bed, and picked up the receiver. A robotic voice said, "You have one message." Beep. Hal's voice came through, soft but flat, like he hadn't cleared his throat before speaking. "You looked like yourself out there. That's rare." Pause. "They're going to start thinking you belong to them." Longer pause. "Don't let them be right." Click. Owen sat there a while, the dial tone steady against his ear. He didn't smile. He didn't replay the message. He just hung up. Then sat, staring out at the window, at the city trying to shine through its own reflection, at a million lights that couldn't touch him. He leaned back on the bed, still in his coat, eyes open. The invite said mandatory. Owen didn't ask what that meant. He just showed up. The bar sat on the roof of a hotel that had probably never meant to be anything but a photo. The elevator smelled like perfume and polished chrome. The music started 2 floors before the doors opened. He stepped out into light. Flashing, pulsing, colored wrong, pink and ice blue, sharp whites, the occasional flashbulb bounce off a champagne glass. Someone handed him a drink before he spoke. He didn't touch it, just carried it through the crowd like a fragile object. People moved in packs. Players, agents, women in silver shoes, and men with shirts so tight they looked painted on. Everyone smiled like they were afraid of missing something. Owen stood near a concrete column, watching without watching, his coat still on, drink still untouched. Briggs passed him once, clapping someone on the back, laughing too hard. "Kilroy, you gonna say anything tonight?" Owen didn't answer. Briggs was already gone. The DJ announced a new track like it was a bomb warning, and then laughter. Not canned, not staged. Sharp, real. High enough to cut through the bass and low enough to stop the air. Owen turned his head. She was near the bar. Short black dress, bare shoulders, hair like it couldn't decide between waves and lightning. One heel off, dangling from her fingers, the other still on. She was laughing at someone's joke, but her eyes weren't on them. They were on him. She took a sip from her glass without breaking eye contact, raised one eyebrow, said something to the person beside her, then walked toward him. Not fast, not slow, just like she'd decided something. Owen blinked once, didn't move. She stopped 3 feet away, barefoot on one side, glass in her left hand, smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You look like someone who wandered into the wrong century," she said. Owen looked at her, said nothing. She smiled wider. "Don't tell me, you're the silent type." Still nothing. She leaned forward, curious now. "Or are you just bored?" Owen said, "Neither." "Ah," she said, tipping her glass toward him. "A voice," I was beginning to think you were an art installation. She drank. He didn't. What's your name? You already know. I do, she said, but I like hearing people say it for themselves. He met her eyes. Owen. Delia, she said, and offered her hand like it was part of a game. He didn't shake it. She didn't mind. She let her hand drop and looked him over like she was trying to find the crack in something carved. So, she said. Pitcher. Hitter. Stoic. Owen didn't correct her. You always this social? No. She grinned. You talk like you've got a word limit. He said nothing. She took another sip. The condensation trailed down her wrist. She didn't wipe it. Do you ever wonder what people say about you when you're not in the room? No. Liar. Owen tilted his head slightly. Why would I? Delia looked at him like that was the first interesting thing anyone had said all night. I don't know, she said. Because it's fun? Because it tells you where the game is being played? I'm not playing. Oh, she said. That's the most dangerous kind of player. She took his untouched drink from his hand and set it on a nearby ledge. I've seen you on TV. Twice. You hit like you're trying not to wake something up. He looked at her. What do you do? I disappoint my agent, she said, smiling wide. And sometimes I sell shoes to people who don't need them. A beat of silence. Then she said softer. And I try to find people who mean what they do, which is harder than it should be. Owen nodded once. That a yes? No? See? She said, pointing with her glass. You keep doing that. People are going to mistake it for mystery. He shrugged. Delia turned and leaned against the column beside him, their shoulders almost level. She looked out over the crowd, the fake laughs, the clicking glasses, the flicker of neon signs through the sliding glass doors. I hate places like this, she said. And then why are you here? She didn't answer right away, and then, same reason you are. Owen looked at her. Delia said, because someone told us it was part of the job. They left without saying goodbye. She didn't ask. He didn't suggest. They just moved, out of the noise, down the elevator, through the lobby where a bellhop watched them pass without blinking. Outside, the city was still awake, but not alive. Too late for crowds, too early for delivery trucks. The sidewalk was washed in orange light, the air warm and sour with exhaust. Delia walked a step ahead, one heel on, one heel off. She carried the other shoe like a cigarette. Don't tell anyone, she said, but I like this part better. Owen walked beside her, hands in his coat, eyes forward. You talk like you're in a movie, he said. Maybe I am, she said. Maybe you are too. I don't feel like it. Exactly. She pointed up at a blinking billboard advertising a watch. The model looked like a man trying to remember his lines. That guy definitely knows he's in one. They walked in silence for a while. A cab rolled by. Somewhere far off, someone shouted a name into the night. Delia kept talking, not waiting for replies. I used to think fame would feel like wind, like something moving through you. Does it? No, she said. It feels like dust, like it settles on you and makes everything look fake. Owen nodded slightly. They passed a donut shop with its gate half drawn and lights still on. She looked at it. Hungry? No, she laughed. Another surprise. They kept walking. Eventually, she kicked off the other heel and walked barefoot, the shoes swinging in one hand. Her toes left prints on the concrete that faded before she turned to look at them. I don't usually do this, she said. Owen looked at her. She added, not with baseball players. You think I'm a baseball player? You think you're not?" He didn't answer. They stopped near a bridge that looked over the edge of the river. The water was black, with city reflections floating like broken glass. Delia sat on the railing, heels in her lap, hair wild in the warm wind. "I used to write poems when I was a kid," she said suddenly. Owen didn't laugh. "Want to hear one?" "Okay." She cleared her throat dramatically, smiled sideways. "I drew a door in my closet wall and opened it once a year, and every time I looked inside, there was one less thing to fear." He didn't say anything. She looked at him. "You're supposed to clap." "I don't clap for poems." She smiled. "Good," she said. "It wasn't very good." 2 days later, her name lit up on the hotel phone screen. He picked up on the second ring. "I have a shoot tomorrow," she said. "Downtown, come." Owen didn't ask what for, and he just said, "Okay." The studio was inside an old warehouse, painted white to look new, but still breathing its old dust. The windows were taped with filters. The floors were marked with gaffer's tape and coffee stains. The music was low and moody, like a dream that didn't end well. Delia wore black again, something sheer, something sharp, her hair tied back. She moved like she didn't know how to walk slow. Owen sat in a chair near the back, watching without expression. She didn't look at him until the first outfit change. Then, from behind the mirror, she grinned. "You're either the worst audience I've ever had," she said, "or the best." He didn't answer. The photographer, French, impatient, approached him during the third setup. "Who is he?" Delia said. "He's a rookie." The photographer squinted. "He models." "No," she said. "Good," the photographer muttered, adjusting a light. "Then he's perfect." They took a few shots with both of them. Delia coached him through it, not with words, but with her eyes, her posture. He didn't pose. He didn't need to. He just stood there, still, breathing, looking into the lens like it didn't matter. When it was over, the photographer showed them a proof. Delia looked at the photo. Owen beside her, motionless, unreadable, not blank, but present, and said, "You look like someone who doesn't belong anywhere." Owen said, "Maybe I don't." She didn't smile. The car was too quiet for its cost. Black leather seats, tinted windows, a driver who didn't speak. Jazz played faintly through the dash, the kind that thinks you're not listening. The city rolled by in pulses. Liquor ads, chain-link shadows, women laughing in dresses not meant to sit down. Delia leaned against him, not possessively, not flirtatiously, like it was easier than holding herself up. Her hair smelled faintly like smoke and something expensive. Owen sat still. She didn't talk much now. Her eyes blinked slow, heavy with something not quite exhaustion. "I used to think," she murmured, "that the lights meant something." He looked out the window, neon signs in foreign fonts, red and gold streaks across puddles, a palm tree that looked like a ghost under the street lamp. "They don't," she added. She shifted slightly, one hand curled near his chest, her breath soft and uneven. Owen looked down at her. She wasn't asleep. Not fully, and not yet. He turned back to the window, watched a billboard slide by, his face on it now, hat low, eyes half-shadowed. Baseball's new silence. He didn't react, didn't look twice, didn't wonder who approved it. The car kept moving. The city glowed like it needed to be seen. Owen didn't blink. It started with a foul ball. Top of the third. Fastball, outer half. He should have let it pass, or waited, or turned it into a line drive down the line. Instead, he swung. Too early, too hard. The sound wasn't wrong exactly, but it was off. A sharp ricochet, high and right, clanging off the cage behind first. He stepped back, adjusted his gloves, took a breath. Second pitch, curveball. He read it, waited, but waited a little too long. His bat cut under it. Foul tip. 2 strikes. The next pitch, he didn't swing at all. Fastball, belt high. Strike 3. He stood there a beat longer than usual, then walked back to the dugout without expression. No one said anything. Not yet. He was still Owen Kilroy. But something had shifted. He felt it in the soles of his feet. The next game, he threw 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks. Solid. Even good, but not him. He pulled 2 fastballs high, missed the corner on a full count, shook off the catcher once, then again. The timing wasn't broken, it was just busy, like a clock still ticking but louder now, hesitant, too aware of itself. He swung early in batting practice, twice, no one mentioned it. But the third time, Coach Briggs walked by and said, "You pressing?" Owen looked at him. Briggs shrugged. "Just don't forget what got you here." Owen nodded and then stepped back into the cage. He told himself to breathe, but the ball came before he could. The headlines shifted like wind against a loose tarp. Kilroy stumbles in 6th straight start. The silent prodigy is slipping. Is baseball's quietest star tuning out? Reporters asked the same questions, but now they asked them louder. What changed, Owen? How are you adjusting to the pressure? Are you frustrated? He answered with what he always gave, "Nothing changed. I just play." No. Before they'd called it calm, now they called it evasiveness. On the radio, a former infielder turned commentator said, "The kid's talented, no doubt. But baseball ain't golf. You can't live in your own little monastery forever." On a morning sports show, a panelist smirked. You ever see the guy smile? Ever hear him say something longer than 5 words? Maybe he's not a star. Maybe he's just a glitch. The clip ran 10,000 times. Delia sent it to him with no caption. He didn't reply. In the locker room, teammates gave him space. Still respectful, still quiet. But the jokes didn't land near him anymore. No more backslaps, no more casual nods. Briggs handed him a scouting report before a game and said, "They've been studying you. You're not unpredictable anymore." Owen read the page, didn't say anything. "Anything you want to adjust?" "No." Briggs looked at him, then walked away. The camera crews got bolder. Lights followed him through the tunnel. PR asked him to do a short interview for a promo spot. "Just smile a little," the rep said. "One line. I'm here to play." That's it. Owen stared at the camera. Said the words, didn't smile. The rep sighed. They used the clip anyway, but they muted it. Her apartment smelled like orchids and something cold. The furniture was soft and expensive, designed for people who posed without knowing it. She had a balcony that overlooked the curve of sunset, the lights like veins glowing under thin skin. Owen sat on the couch, arms draped across his knees, watching the traffic move like water down a slope. Delia sat across from him, barefoot, knees pulled up under a blanket. Her makeup was half off, her voice half a whisper. "I think you should give them something." Owen didn't look at her. She leaned forward, elbows on her thighs. Just enough, she said, a smile. A sentence that sounds like a commercial, something people can repeat. Silence. She waited, then, "You don't have to change. Just shape the reflection, a little." Owen's voice came low. "Is that what you do?" She exhaled through her nose, not a laugh, not an answer. "Sometimes," she said. Owen looked back out at the street. A siren passed without urgency. Delia tucked her hair behind her ear, then left it there, fingers grazing her cheek. "They love you," she said, "but they don't know why." That scares them. He blinked, once. "They'll make something up if you don't give them the reason." Still no answer. She studied him. "You're not unreachable, Owen. But you wear stillness like it's armor." "I don't wear anything," he said. "I know," she said softly. "That's the problem." The next morning, the hitting coach adjusted his stance. "Just open up a little more," he said, tapping Owen's toe with the end of a fungo bat. "Get ahead of the pitch." Owen adjusted, didn't argue. Next bullpen session, the pitching coach said, "Let's see a little more heat today. You've got more in the tank than you're showing." Owen threw harder. His shoulder ached afterward. He said nothing. The agent showed up at the locker room unannounced. "You got time for a shoot this week?" the agent asked, smiling like they were old friends. "Shoe deal. It's tasteful, minimalist, like you." Owen didn't answer. "I'll send details," the agent said anyway. "Great exposure. You've got a face that people trust." Owen looked at the agent for the first time. "Do they?" Before the game, a cameraman walked backward in front of Owen as he entered the dugout. "Just for B-roll," he said. Owen said nothing, sat on the bench, breathed once, then again. It didn't work. The noise didn't leave, not this time. Top of the second, he fielded a grounder and double-clutched before throwing. Still got the out. Top of the fourth, he missed a sign. Swung on a hit and run and fouled it off into the dugout fence. Top of the sixth, he gave up a home run. Solo shot. No big deal, but the batter grinned too long, rounding third. Owen saw it. And for the first time, he cared. He threw the next pitch too hard and walked the next guy on 4. In the locker room afterward, he sat at his locker with his shirt half off, elbow wrapped in ice, eyes not focused on anything. Briggs sat beside him, wiping rosin off his hands. "You're not broken," Briggs said. Owen didn't reply. "You're just listening to things that don't play the game." The phone rang in his hotel room. Old landline, red light blinking again. He didn't move for the first 2 rings. Then picked up. No greeting, no pause, just Hal's voice, dry, low, steady. "You're rushing." Owen sat on the edge of the bed, elbow still stiff from icing, jersey balled on the floor. "I watched your last start," Hal said. "You were throwing before you decided to." Owen said nothing. "And you're swinging like someone who's afraid the moment won't wait for you." Still silence. Hal didn't fill it. Eventually Owen said, "You calling to fix it?" "No," Hal said, "just to ask you something." A pause. "Are you still there?" Owen blinked, stared at the carpet, at a stain shaped like a question. He didn't answer, not yet. The line held. No click. No rush. Then Hal said, quieter now, "Because if you're not, you should stop pretending." Owen exhaled through his nose, slow, controlled, but nothing like peace. He didn't hang up and he didn't reply. He just held the phone to his ear long after the line went dead. It started with his hands, They weren't wrong. Just late. He saw the pitch. He recognized the spin. But the hands didn't go, or went too soon, or too tight. In the cage, he adjusted his stance, widened it, shortened his stride. He took a breath, tried to find the pause between things, the moment when nothing moves and everything waits. But it wasn't there. He swung again, whiff. Briggs, leaning on the cage with arms crossed, said, "You're trying to remember how to breathe while you're already underwater." Owen didn't answer. Briggs tossed another ball into the machine. Crack. Foul, hard, and late. "Your shoulders are talking louder than your hips," Briggs muttered. "That ever happened before?" "No," Owen said. Briggs nodded once. "That's what I thought." On the mound, it was worse. He gripped the ball too hard, tried to shape the curve instead of feel it. He shook off signs, hit the edge of the zone, and stared like the plate had moved. The catcher jogged out in the third, crouched beside him, mask on, voice low. "You okay?" Owen didn't answer. He threw the next pitch in the dirt. Fourth inning, pulled early. Coach didn't yell, didn't say much at all. "Rest up," was all he offered, hand tapping his back as Owen walked past. Owen didn't sit, just stood at the edge of the dugout. Cap low, elbow tight, mouth closed. The crowd still cheered when they showed his face on the screen, but it was thinner now, like they were clapping for a version of him they remembered. The tux itched. Delia said it was tailored perfectly, but it still didn't feel like it belonged to him, or he to it. She looked like light sculpted into a woman. Silver dress, sharp shoulders, lipstick the color of Last Chance's. Her hand on his arm felt both warm and distant. "Just stand still and try not to look like you're planning an escape," she said as they pulled up to the venue. He didn't answer. The carpet wasn't red. It was white, backlit, reflective. A wall of photographers stood behind ropes, shouting names like they were commands. "Delia, over the shoulder." "Delia, to your left." "Kilroy, just one smile, buddy." He didn't. She smiled enough for both of them. She leaned in once, whispered, "It's not about being real. It's about being seen." Owen looked straight ahead. Inside, everything gleamed. Glass chandeliers, white tablecloths, gold accents, laughter that sounded too clean. A host in a sequined jacket introduced Delia from the stage. "She's the face of a generation, and the name on every billboard." Applause. A camera found her table. She kissed Owen on the cheek. The audience cooed. He didn't flinch, but he also didn't smile. Backstage, she handed him a flute of champagne. He didn't drink it. "You're a ghost in a movie," she said. "Maybe I'm not in it." She looked at him carefully. "But you're here. Are you?" Her smile slipped just slightly. "Every day," she said, "more than I want to be." Then she turned and walked toward the lights. The show went on without him. He stood near an exit, watching the bodies move like clockwork. Everyone shaking hands with the same smile. Everyone clapping just slightly too long. Everyone posing, even when no one was looking. Especially when no one was looking. Owen found the door without being stopped. He stepped into the night, tie undone, hands in his pockets. And he didn't look back. In the film room, the coaches slowed down his swing frame by frame. They pointed at his shoulder, his front foot, the tilt of his head. "You're flinching early," the hitting coach said. "Just a hair. It's anticipation. You gotta trust again." Owen nodded, didn't speak. The coach rewound the clip. "You were fluid 2 weeks ago. You were listening. Still nothing." Briggs, from across the room, said, "He hears you." He's just not home. The coach glanced at Owen, then away. Well, someone better answer the door soon. In bullpen sessions, he hit his spots. Sometimes, but they were sharp, not smooth. Like a machine jerking back to life. The pitching coach stepped beside him after one round, arms folded. "You know, I've seen this before," he said. "Kids get good fast, and then they start thinking about it. They start watching themselves." Owen rubbed the seam of the ball between his fingers. "Thinking's not the enemy," the coach added. "But thinking too loud is." Owen nodded. "Do you want to talk about it?" the coach asked. Owen looked at him, slow and steady. "No." The coach didn't press, just walked away. At the plate, he watched a 2-1 fastball and didn't move. It was the one. He didn't swing. Strike 2. He struck out on the next pitch. As he walked back, someone in the crowd shouted, "Wake up, Kilroy!" He didn't look. Back in the dugout, he sat at the far end. Alone, cap pulled low, elbows on knees, breathing slow but not deep. Like his chest was full of static. One of the assistant coaches walked past and muttered, "He's here." But it's like the room is empty. The invitation was embossed. Heavy cardstock, gold lettering. No RSVP. Just instructions. Honoring Owen Kilroy, the future of baseball. Cocktails at 7. Speech at 8:30. Rooftop. He arrived at 7:42. No tie, no +1. The room was white again. Too white. Spotless glass windows opened to the skyline. A string quartet played a cover of something that used to mean something. Waiters floated by with plates of food that looked afraid to be touched. A giant poster stood near the champagne table. Owen Kilroy. Silent strength. The image, him mid-swing. Bat frozen in follow-through, face unreadable. He stood beside it for a moment, staring at his own form like it belonged to someone else. Someone tapped his shoulder. The team owner, shiny blazer, whiter teeth than memory allows. "Owen, my man, we are so proud of you," he said, gripping Owen's hand with both of his own. Owen nodded. "Everyone's watching," the owner added, sotto voce, with a grin. "And tonight, we're going to give them something to watch." Owen didn't reply. He moved through the crowd without touching anything. Someone tried to pull him toward a photographer. "Quick shot for the socials." He shook his head, kept walking. Delia wasn't there. He didn't ask why. He found the balcony, leaned against the glass, looked at the city below, the way it blinked without apology. Behind him the speech began, words like legacy, promise, franchise face. He heard his name followed by applause. He didn't turn around. He just stepped back from the glass, into shadow, then to the stairs, then into the elevator. Nobody noticed him leave. They were too busy clapping. He walked down 5 blocks, then 7 more, crossed against lights, past gas stations, shuttered shops, a man asleep under an awning holding a bag like it owed him money. He didn't check his watch. He didn't have one. The stadium rose slowly in the distance. At night it looked more honest. No banners, no noise, just concrete and light shadows, hulking like a ship docked in the middle of land. He slipped through the security gate with the quiet nod of someone who didn't ask permission. A nod returned by a guard who had seen too many games and knew a man who needed space when he saw one. Inside, the seats stretched into silence. No vendors, no kids screaming, no pop music between innings, just the low hum of electricity keeping the scoreboard barely alive. Owen climbed, row by row, stair by stair, to the very top, the last row, He sat in seat 41, right behind home plate. It was sticky from a spilled Coke that no one had cleaned. He didn't mind. He leaned forward, forearms on knees, looked down at the diamond. The field from up there looked like something drawn by a hand that never made a mistake. The lines were perfect. The grass still glowed faintly under the moon. The mound was just a shadow. The plate, a suggestion. He breathed in, held it, let it out. Again, slower this time, no voices, no flashbulbs, no requests, no swing to fix, no pitch to sharpen. Just the shape of the game, without him in it. He didn't move for a long time. The gate was open. Not wide, not obvious, just cracked enough for someone to notice, if they were paying attention. Owen slid through, hands in his jacket pockets, cap low. The sky was still violet. The kind of early that doesn't belong to anyone yet. Dew on the grass. Birds too sleepy to sing. The field waiting, not impatient, not eager, just there. He didn't stretch, didn't warm up, just grabbed a bat and walked into the cage. No machine, no pitcher, just a bucket of balls and a swing that hadn't spoken in weeks. He placed one on the tee, took a breath, not deep, not deliberate, just breath, and swung, crack. The sound wasn't sharp, it was round, clean, no ambition, no force, just contact. He didn't react. Placed another ball, swung again, crack, then again, crack. Not chasing power, not chasing anything, just listening. By the time the grounds crew arrived, the bucket was nearly empty. Owen kept swinging. One of them stopped near the cage. "Morning, Kilroy." Owen nodded, swung again. The groundskeeper watched the motion. Loose hips, quiet wrists, no flare, and said mostly to himself, "Well, looks like someone found it." Owen didn't answer, just bent down, set the next ball, and waited. By the time the sun cleared the bleachers, the clubhouse had started to stir. Cleats clacked on concrete. Laughter bounced off brick. The usual morning rituals. Curses at the coffee machine, someone flipping cards at the trainer's table, a rookie trying not to get noticed. Owen walked in quiet, sweat already drying on his shirt, batting gloves slung in one hand, eyes ahead. He didn't stop at his locker, didn't check the lineup card. He just kept walking. Into the bullpen. The pitching coach was mid-conversation when he saw him, stopped talking. Turned. "You're early." Owen nodded. "I'm fine to throw." The coach looked him over. "You say that like I asked." Owen just smiled, not big, but enough that it was real. "All right," the coach said, stepping back. "Let's see it." He took the mound like he was stepping onto a porch. No wind-up changes, no dramatic adjustments. Just glove to chest, breath in, step, release. Pop. The catcher looked up, then shook out his hand. "Where the hell was that last week?" Owen didn't answer, just took the ball back and threw again. Pop it again. Briggs watched from the tunnel, didn't interrupt, didn't approach. He just chewed a toothpick and narrowed his eyes. After 10 pitches, he turned to an assistant and said, "He's not back." The assistant raised an eyebrow. "He's not?" Briggs shook his head. "He's just here." By the time batting practice started, the rest of the team had picked up on it too. Owen didn't say much. He didn't have to. He moved like a man who wasn't chasing anything. No more trying to look like the image, no more correcting the swing before the pitch came. He stood in the cage, waited, and when the ball came, he met it, every time. The stadium filled like it always did. Vendors shouting, kids with gloves too big for their hands, grown men in jerseys trying not to hope too much. No announcement was made. No special graphic on the screen. Just Owen Kilroy, back in the lineup. Third in the order, starting pitcher, nothing more, nothing less. He took the mound in the top of the first. The air was warm and dry. The light had that late afternoon gold that made even mistakes look beautiful. First batter, pop fly to shallow right. Second batter, grounder to short. Third, single clean through the middle. Fourth, strikeout called. Backwards. K. He walked off the mound without a fist pump, no nod, just the quiet rhythm of cleats on dirt. At the plate, he didn't swing at the first pitch, didn't flinch, didn't guess. Ball one, second pitch, inside fastball. He turned on it, not violently, not dramatically, just turned. Line drive, left center. He didn't raise his hands at second, didn't look to the dugout, just tugged off his gloves and waited for the next batter. By the seventh, he'd thrown 94 pitches, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk. His stat line wouldn't make the highlight reel, but every pitch came out clean. And none of them came from panic. In the 8th, he was pulled with 2 outs and a man on. Briggs met him halfway to the dugout, didn't say a word, just took the ball, clapped his shoulder. Owen walked off, cap low, breath steady. The crowd gave him a soft ovation. Not wild, not theatrical, but real. He didn't wave. He didn't smile, but he heard it. All of it. And that was enough. The TV played with the volume low. Delia sat cross-legged on the edge of her couch, a wine glass balanced in one hand, the remote untouched in the other. She wasn't dressed for cameras, hair loose, black t-shirt, one sock on, the other lost somewhere in the cushions. The apartment was too quiet. No music, no calls, just the commentary murmuring beneath the city hum. And Kilroy with another efficient inning, 73 pitches through 6. No flash, no drama, no new narrative to sell, just baseball. She leaned forward when he came to bat, not because she expected anything, just to see how he stood, how he breathed. He didn't fidget, didn't glance at the dugout, didn't spit or shift or adjust his gloves more than once. He looked simple, which wasn't the same as small. The camera cut to his eyes. Delia tilted her head. He wasn't looking at anything. Not really. But he was seeing everything. The swing came like a brush stroke, clean, doubled into the gap. He stopped at second, didn't nod, didn't grin, just stood there still inside the moment. She smiled, only a little. When they pulled him in the 8th, the commentators moved on quickly. No analysis, no drama. It wasn't a comeback. It wasn't a fall. It was just a man playing the game. She muted the TV, watched the screen flicker in silence, then turned the glass in her hand and whispered, barely audible, "There you are." The crowd filtered out like tidewater, slow and wide. Vendors shouted last calls. Janitors began their patient sweep of peanut shells and bottle caps. Music played faintly over the speakers, half victory, half formality. Owen stepped off the dugout steps, didn't speak to the media team waiting with clipboards, didn't stop for the bat boy trying to hand him a towel. He walked toward the tunnel, one foot after the other, no rush, no fatigue, just motion. The tunnel was dimmer than usual, lit by old fluorescents, buzzing faintly, a bit of dust in every beam. Hal stood just past the security rope, arms folded, ball cap low. Same jacket from the day they met. He didn't wave, didn't call out, just looked. Owen stopped 3 steps away. They stood there, A long moment, no greeting, no tension, no need. Then Hal said quietly, "You're not gone." Owen nodded once. "You're not back either," Hal added. Another nod, slower this time. Hal shifted his weight, eyes never left him. "That's fine." Owen looked at him fully, not waiting for advice, not needing approval, just seeing. "You look like yourself again," Hal said. "I didn't go anywhere," Owen replied. "No," Hal said, "but the noise did." Owen smiled. Not big, not performative, but it stayed on his face a while. Hal stepped aside, wordlessly inviting him deeper into the tunnel. Owen walked past him. Their shoulders brushed. Nothing else was said. The gates clicked open at 6:12 a.m. No fans, no media vans, just the soft shuffle of brooms on concrete and the hum of sprinklers spinning somewhere behind the outfield wall. Owen walked in alone, duffel over one shoulder, jacket zipped to the neck. The clubhouse was half dark, lights flickering awake in slow rows. He didn't speak to the cleaning staff, just nodded, quiet and clear. In the batting cage, the machine wasn't even on yet, so he tossed the balls himself. Underhand, then swung, one pitch at a time, crack. Pick it up, toss again, crack. He wasn't counting and wasn't tracking contact, wasn't filming for review. He just liked the sound, the rhythm. The moment between wind-up and connection. In the bullpen, he threw without a catcher. Just the net. No pressure, no radar gun. No one telling him where to aim. Each pitch came out smooth. Some tailed, some didn't. He let them all go. By the time the others arrived, he was already halfway through his morning. Rookies passed him without comment. A few gave small nods. One stopped, hesitated. "Coach said you were out here before 6. Owen wiped his palms on his pants, looked at the kid. "Yeah." The rookie waited, maybe hoping for a tip, a lesson, something to fold into a notebook. But Owen just said, "It's better when it's quiet." The rookie blinked, then nodded back. That day, Owen went 2 for 4, through one inning of relief. Nobody interviewed him after. Nobody mentioned his name on the late-night shows. The next morning, he showed up at 6:03, even earlier, just to hear the park breathe. They started showing up earlier, too. Not all at once. First, just one, a skinny kid from Tulsa who couldn't stop fidgeting with his glove. Then another, and another. They didn't gather around him, they just stayed near, stretched within sight, threw in parallel lanes, listened without looking. One morning, the rookie pitcher, the lefty with the nerves and the heavy leg kick, stood behind Owen in the bullpen, said nothing for a while. Then, "How do you make it drop like that?" Owen picked up the ball. Didn't explain spin rate, didn't talk about torque or wrist angle. He just said, "Feel the weight." Held the ball in his palm, then closed his fingers around it, let it fall. You don't force it down, you just stop catching it. He threw. Not hard, not for show, just enough. The ball arced up, then dipped low, no tail, just gravity obeyed. The rookie nodded slowly and then mimicked it. His first try was sharp, yanked, too much arm. Owen didn't correct him, just picked up the next ball and threw again. Same motion, same breath. The rookie followed. Second pitch dropped closer, third was clean. Owen didn't smile, didn't clap, just turned, picked up the bucket and said, "You'll feel when you stop trying," and walked away. That afternoon, the rookie struck out 2 in his inning. Didn't look at Owen once during warm-ups, but after the game, he nodded to him as they crossed paths in the tunnel. Owen nodded back. That was it, and it was enough. The cameras moved on. Other names rose, louder, brasher, hungrier. Kids with chains and TikToks and walk-up music that made headlines. Owen's name, once stapled to every highlight reel, now trickled down the crawl of late-night sports shows. Third story, then fifth, then gone. His agent called once, left a message. "You're fading, kid. You're not the story anymore. We gotta think about legacy." Owen didn't call back. The team stopped suggesting interviews. No more charity photo ops. No more sponsored day-in-the-life segments. He was in the lineup, on the field. And that was enough for them. That was enough for him. After games, reporters passed over him. They waited near the slugger who'd hit a walk-off, the reliever who'd blown a save. Owen walked past them, bag slung low, unnoticed. One of them looked up once, blinked. Then back to his recorder. Owen kept walking. He didn't miss it. The noise. The questions with answers already written. The lights that made your pupils shrink. Now he drove home in silence. Rolled down the window, listened to the road hum. He passed a billboard on Sunset once. His face used to be on it. Now it sold cologne. He didn't feel anything, didn't even glance twice. In the clubhouse, his nameplate still hung straight, uniform clean. Glove broken in just right. He taped his own fingers, didn't need the trainer anymore, didn't need the noise, didn't need the story. Just the dirt, the weight, the rhythm. It was there when he came in, tucked between the edge of his locker door and the folded towel hanging from the top shelf. Cream paper, thick envelope, no logo, no script, no scent. Just Owen, in black ink written like a whisper that had been held in too long. He didn't touch it at first. Just looked. Then pulled it down, tucked it inside his jacket pocket without breaking the seal. Went about his routine. Jogged, stretched, took swings, talked to no one. The envelope pressed faintly against his ribs as he moved. Not urgent, but present. Later he sat on the bench after practice. The stadium half-lit, grounds crew packing up. He pulled the letter out, ran his thumb under the flap, and unfolded it slowly. One sheet. Unlined. Her handwriting elegant, fast, slightly messy when she was thinking too quickly. Owen. I didn't want to say this on camera, or in an article, or through a manager. I watched you play last week, not because someone asked me to, not because I had to. You were still. Not gone, not lost, not missing. Still, and then I realized I might have loved the noise more than I loved the game, but you didn't. And I hope you never do. I'm not writing to fix anything. I just wanted to say, I saw you, for real. Delia. He read it once, then again, didn't fold it up, didn't put it away, just held it in both hands. Breath still, shoulders quiet, eyes on the page. He stood, still holding the letter, didn't refold it, didn't rush. Walked down the dugout steps, across the dirt, into the cage. The bat waited where he'd left it. No bucket. Just one ball still resting on the tee. No one around. Not even the crew anymore. Just field lights buzzing like soft static, and the weight of a page in his hand. He set the letter on the bench beside the net, rolled his shoulders once, took the bat, stared at the ball, then closed his eyes, and waited. For what, he didn't know. Maybe for the thought to stop forming, maybe for the noise to leave again, maybe for nothing. And when the waiting was over, he swung. Crack. The sound echoed higher than it should have. bounced off empty bleachers and scattered pigeons from the rafters. He didn't watch where the ball landed. Didn't care. Just stepped out of the box. Picked up the letter, sat on the bench, unfolded it again, and began to read. This time slower, not to understand, but to feel. The weeks passed in quiet tones. No drama, no headlines, just games. Sometimes he went 2 for 4, sometimes 0 for 3 with a walk and a sac fly. He threw bullpen innings when asked, pitched a full 7 once when the rotation thinned. He didn't check his stats anymore, didn't follow fan boards, didn't glance up at the jumbotron when they called his name. He just played. In the locker room, he talked more now. Not much, just enough. A dry joke here, a word of advice, plain and clean. A clap on the shoulder when someone struck out swinging, and a crooked smile when someone turned 2 like it was nothing. He wasn't the leader, but they listened when he spoke, which, for someone like him, meant more. At the plate, he still didn't celebrate. No bat flips, no shouting on doubles. But once, just once, after a solid hit to the opposite field, he smiled while rounding first. Just for a second. The first base coach blinked, then grinned. "Careful, Kilroy," he said. "Might start looking like you enjoy this." Owen nodded. "I might." After games, he lingered sometimes, not to study, not to fix, just to be near the field when it was empty. He'd walk the warning track in his socks, feel the dirt with his toes, sit in the bullpen with his glove in his lap, breathe deep. No reason, no purpose, just there, game after game. He saw her through the window before he stepped inside. Same diner as before. Same booth. Her coat was off, hair tied back, no lipstick. She stirred her coffee like it was an old habit she didn't quite need. She didn't look up when the bell above the door rang. He slid into the seat across from her without a word. No hug. No hello. She passed him the sugar. "You still drink it like this?" she asked. He looked at the cup, poured in 1 packet, and then said, "Yeah." She smiled. Small, real. They sat without speaking for a while. Outside, a delivery truck hissed to a stop. Rain tapped the glass like it was asking to be let in. Delia leaned her cheek into her hand. "You look." She paused. He looked up. "Real," she finished. "Wasn't I before?" She shrugged. "No, you were a myth." The waitress came. They ordered. Nothing fancy. Eggs, toast, water. Owen cut into his food slowly, then asked without looking, "Why'd you write it?" She didn't pretend not to know what he meant. "I didn't think I would," she said, "but I kept watching, even when you weren't the story anymore. And you stopped performing." "I didn't mean to start." "I know," she said, "but the world's loud. And you're quiet. It makes people want to fill the space around you." He looked at her. "You're not trying to fill it now." "No," she said, eyes soft. "I think I just wanted to sit in it." The check came. She paid before he noticed. "I've got it," she said before he could reach. He didn't argue. Outside, the rain had stopped. She walked beside him to the corner. Cars hissed past. Neon signs blinked through puddles. She stopped at the curb, pulled her coat tight. "I'm flying out in the morning," she said. "Probably won't be back for a while." Owen nodded. Delia hesitated, then stepped forward and kissed him on the cheek. Quick, gentle, not sad, just done. "Take care of yourself, Kilroy," she said, then turned and walked into the dark. Owen stood still for a few seconds longer, then turned the other way. Didn't look back. The kid was slumping hard. 12 at-bats, no hits, 6 strikeouts. He started flinching at fastballs. Started looking over his shoulder before each swing. Started apologizing, without words, just in the way he walked back to the dugout. Nobody knew what to do with him. Not Briggs, not the hitting coach, not himself. Owen watched from a distance. Didn't say anything when the kid fumbled another grounder in warm-ups. Didn't flinch when he sat in silence after the game, still in full uniform, staring at the laces of his cleats like they owed him something. Then one morning, before practice, Owen entered the cage and started hitting. No machine, no coach, just a tee, a bucket, and his bat. After a few minutes, the kid walked in, didn't speak, didn't ask, just stood there with his arms folded. Owen didn't acknowledge him, kept swinging. Crack. Ball rolls back and next one, crack. After 4 or 5 swings, he stepped aside, picked up a second bat, handed it over. The kid took it. Didn't say thanks. Didn't need to. They hit in tandem, no conversation, no correction, just 2 bats, 2 rhythms. Owen's swing never changed, compact, balanced, repeatable. The kid watched out of the corner of his eye, adjusted his own stance, hit one clean, then another, then one more. The silence felt less like absence and more like space. Afterward, they walked to the clubhouse together, still no words. Just the steady sound of cleats on concrete. At the door, the kid said, without looking, "Thanks." Owen didn't reply, didn't need to. He just clapped him on the shoulder, once, and kept walking. Morning started with toast, nothing else. Toast. Black coffee, a walk, and no radio, no TV. He passed the same newsstand every day. The headlines never mentioned him. He liked it that way. He'd arrive at the stadium before the lights were even on, let himself in, knew the right doors, the old doors. Sometimes he swept out the cage before hitting, not because he had to, because it felt right. One motion at a time. Broom, ball, bat routine. After practice, he sat in the bullpen for a while, sometimes with the rookie, sometimes alone. Sometimes he pitched. Sometimes he didn't. Nobody asked questions anymore. They'd just nod when they passed him. Some even smiled. Nights were slower, and he didn't go out, didn't chase noise. Sometimes he ate at that same diner. The waitress had stopped asking if he wanted a menu. Sometimes he walked past Delia's old building. Didn't stop. Didn't think. Just walked. One night, after a win, he stood on the roof of the stadium parking deck. Looked out at the skyline. No champagne. No celebration. Just his hands in his pockets. The hum of the city below. The sound of cleats still ringing in his ears. The game had ended hours ago. The stands were long emptied, but the field lights still glowed like they didn't know how to stop. Soft white on trimmed grass, shadows drawn sharp across baselines. The sky above was moonless, but clear. Owen stepped out through the player's exit. No press, no crowd. Just the hollow sound of the door closing behind him. He carried nothing but his jacket. His cleats were in his locker, drying. The street outside the stadium was slick from a light rain that had passed mid-inning. It left the pavement darker, cooler, smelling faintly of grass and gasoline. He didn't pull his hood up, didn't rush, just walked, past the hot dog cart already shut, past the vendor who always called him Killer, not out of reverence but routine. Tonight the vendor wasn't there, just a bench, a sign still flickering above it. He paused once at the edge of the parking lot, turned to look back at the stadium. The place was still humming, but quiet now, like a piano chord holding its last note. Owen stood there for a while, not thinking, not narrating his life to himself, just standing, letting the light touch his face. Then he turned and walked home. The toast burned slightly. He ate it anyway. Black coffee, no sugar. Shoes on without socks. Jacket zipped halfway. The walk to the stadium was quiet. No rain today. Just the faint smell of cut grass and bus exhaust and something warm rising from the concrete. Owen entered through the side gate like always, nodded to the same guard, didn't speak. The lights were off inside, the world still blue. He walked past the batting cage, past the locker room, into the bullpen, paused, looked left. Nothing, no chair, no Hal, no old baseball cap low over sharp eyes, no arms crossed, no single nod of approval. Just an empty stretch of fence and a rusted chair folded against the wall. He didn't react, didn't blink twice. But his fingers curled once around the strap of his bag, and didn't let go. He set the bag down slow, took out his glove, rolled his shoulders once, twice, then threw. One pitch, then another. But the rhythm wasn't the same. The motion was right, but the weight of it lingered longer in the air, like something waiting to land that never did. He kept throwing, more out of habit than purpose. A few rookies passed by offering half waves. He nodded back, didn't say anything. But every now and then his eyes flicked to the spot behind the fence, where the old folding chair should have been, and still wasn't. The game ended in a win. He struck out 2, lined out once, walked once. People smiled, joked. Music played in the clubhouse. Owen showered, dressed, didn't linger. He got in his truck and drove. Hal's building was low and square, paint the color of paper left in the sun too long. A staircase on the side. Window blinds always halfway shut. Owen parked across the street. Waited in the cab for a moment, engine off, lights still on. Then stepped out. The walkway creaked like it always had. He climbed the stairs. 2nd floor, apartment 2B. He knocked once. Waited, nothing. He knocked again, still nothing, and no footsteps. No cough through the door. No annoyed shuffle. Just the low hum of a fridge inside, steady as breath. He stepped back and looked at the window. Blinds closed. No movement. Mail sat in a crooked stack on the mat. 2 envelopes, a flyer for a free eye exam, a yellow package slip with Wednesday's date circled. Today was Friday. Owen crouched and touched the top envelope. His hand hovered there, then dropped back to his side. He didn't call out, didn't rattle the knob. Just stood there a while, looking at the number on the door like it might change if he stared long enough. Then turned and walked back down the stairs, 1 step at a time, quietly. The call came just after dawn. He was already up. Toast cooling on the counter, coffee half poured, phone buzzed once. He answered without looking. "Mr. Kilroy?" The voice was careful. A woman, early 30s maybe, tired but kind. "This is Sandra. I'm with Hal, Harold Rutley's, building manager." Owen didn't speak, didn't need to. She continued. "He passed sometime late Wednesday night in his sleep, natural causes. There was no emergency contact on file, but your number was left. Handwritten, next to the landline. I thought it was best to call." Still, Owen said nothing. "I'm sorry," she added. He seemed like someone who didn't mind being quiet. "We're doing everything we can to make sure he's treated with care." There was a pause. Not for permission, for respect. Then she added, almost like she wasn't supposed to. He left very little behind. Just clothes, some books, one glove, and a note. That landed heavier than the rest. Owen exhaled, not sharp, not broken, just breath. "Thank you," he said. That was all. He didn't sit, didn't cry, and didn't stare at anything for too long. He picked up his mug, finished his coffee, then laced his shoes, and left for the field. The box was unmarked, no stamp, no sender, just brown paper folded neatly and taped once across the seam. It sat on the bench in front of Owen's locker. Not wrapped, not hidden, waiting. He didn't open it right away. Set down his bag, hung his jacket, changed his shoes. Everything in order. Then he sat. Hands quiet, and lifted the lid. The glove sat like it had always been there, soft and deep with a darkened web. The kind of leather that had memorized 100,000 catches. The inside smooth as riverstone. He touched it with 2 fingers first, then both hands. Lifted it. Turned it over, no name stitched into the wrist. Just a faint black R, scrawled in ink almost completely faded. He smiled. Once. Underneath it, a piece of notebook paper, folded in half, creased perfectly. He opened it, 5 words, no punctuation. "Still yours if you want. No signature. Didn't need one." He sat with it for a while. The glove in his lap, the note resting on top. The sounds of the locker room moved around him, distant chatter, the zip of a bag, the thud of a cleat hitting tile. But none of it touched him. He just sat, still present, and held what was left. The afternoon was warm, not hot, just the kind of warmth that made the seams of the ball feel softer. Owen walked out to the bullpen after warm-ups, Hal's glove in one hand. He didn't put it on, just carried it. The rookies were already out there. One, stretching with a resistance band looped between his feet, another adjusting the laces on his cleats, with a look of total despair, like the leather itself was judging him. A third one, tall, nervous, good arm, was on the mound throwing bullpen fastballs too hard for practice. Owen sat, right there on the bench. The glove rested beside him, its open palm facing the field. He watched. Didn't speak, didn't correct, just watched. After a while, the tall one looked over, wiped sweat from his jaw. "Is it weird?" he said, breathless. "If it feels better when I don't try to throw it hard?" Owen didn't smile, just nodded once, then said, "That's the whole thing." The kid blinked. Thought maybe there was more coming. There wasn't. After a while, the pitchers filtered back toward the clubhouse. Owen stayed. The sky had that late afternoon gold to it. The same light Hal used to squint through, cap pulled low. He looked at the glove beside him, then out at the field. Didn't think, didn't name the moment. Just let it pass through him like wind through chain link. Then he stood, picked up the glove and walked back inside. The scoreboards changed before the team noticed. Half a game up, 1 game back, 2 games clear. The division wasn't supposed to be winnable. Now it was. Owen didn't chase it, didn't mark the standings, didn't talk about magic numbers or momentum. He just kept playing. He'd always been good. But now, he was better. Not in the way you'd see on a poster, but in the way the game noticed. Balls off his bat didn't look fast. They just weren't catchable. His pitches didn't pop like fireworks. They bent quietly, late and wrong, and hitters shook their heads walking back, He smiled more. Still rarely, but more. His teammates started joking around him again, not with awe, with ease. One night he went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles. Next night, he threw 5 scoreless innings in relief. 2 days later, he laid down a perfect bunt in the bottom of the 10th. Nobody asked him to, he just did it. Won the game, didn't raise his hands, didn't pump his fist. Just jogged to first like it was routine. The crowd roared. Owen stood on the bag and closed his eyes for 1 second. Just one. Briggs clapped his back after the game. "You're locked in," he said. Owen nodded. "Feels quiet," he said. Briggs raised an eyebrow. "Good quiet?" Owen shrugged. "Still deciding." The first interview request was harmless. A baseball podcast. Deep cuts with Dorsey. The producer used words like narrative arc and personal texture. Owen didn't respond. The second was National Network Show, Prime Time. The subject line said, "Baseball's Buddha, a sit-down with Owen Kilroy." He deleted it. Then came the agent. Not his, not yet. Slick hair, blue suit, no tie. Found Owen in the tunnel. Smiled like he already had the contract in his back pocket. "You don't have to speak to make millions," he said. "That's your brand." Stillness, clarity. The guy who doesn't play the game outside the game. Owen just looked at him, said nothing. The man laughed, took a business card from a gold clip. "Take your time. But don't wait too long. Stillness sells best when the cameras are rolling." He left the card on the bench. Owen didn't pick it up. The rookie changed, too. Same kid from the slump. Only now he wore tinted sunglasses inside the clubhouse. Talked in quick clips to local press. "You just gotta lock in, trust the grind, stay hungry, you know?" Owen watched from across the room, didn't say anything. But he saw it, the tightness in the kid's shoulders, the way his glove lay untouched on the bench. Hal would have seen it too, would have said something. Not a lecture, just one sentence. Maybe just one word. Owen didn't say it, not yet. That night, someone else wore the number 22 in a commercial break. An actor, younger, more muscular, spouting quotes he never said. Owen muted the TV, turned it off, sat still, and let the silence return, slowly like a tide fighting its way in against wind. It appeared on a Sunday, small by modern standards. No splashy headline, just a single line at the top of the page. "Why Baseball Feels Quieter When He's There," by Delia Ash. Owen read it at his locker, paper folded over his knee. He hadn't known she was writing it. Didn't know she still wrote about baseball. The words moved slow, like her voice when she was thinking something through out loud. There's something rare in the way he plays, not in talent, though he has that, but in tempo. He doesn't chase the moment. He lets it come to him. He moves like someone who trusts the ground to be there underfoot, even when it's not. He talks less than most, listens more. I've never seen him check his own stats. I once asked him what he loved about the game. He didn't answer. But then he picked up a ball, turned it once in his hand, and walked away. That was the answer. He didn't finish it the first time, folded the paper again, slid it into the back pocket of his bag. Later, he opened it again, read the rest. It wasn't about him, not really, and it was about baseball and how sometimes the quietest players say the most just by staying. Within a day, the article made rounds. Not just in baseball media, podcasts, panels, think pieces. One host said, "He's a monk with a bat." Another, "We're watching a philosophy in motion." Owen didn't listen to any of them. Didn't tweet, didn't share, didn't even text her. But the next time he saw Delia's byline, he read the piece all the way through, in one sitting, and kept the paper. Not out of nostalgia, out of respect. They clinched on a Thursday, not with a walk-off, not with a grand slam. Just a caught third strike, middle of the ninth, quiet and clean. The team swarmed the field, hats thrown, water bottles dumped. Owen smiled, just once, then jogged off the field like it was any other win. The tunnel was packed. Reporters elbowed forward. Boom mics hovered. Camera shutters clattered like teeth. He barely made it 10 feet before the first question hit him. "Owen!" "This team feeds off your energy. How do you stay so calm under pressure?" He blinked, wiped sweat from his jaw. Said nothing. A second reporter leaned in. "You're not just a player anymore, you're a symbol. What does it mean to carry that?" He looked at her, not angry, not confused, just tired. Then he spoke. "It doesn't mean anything if I let someone else define it." Silence. A mic dipped lower. "Can you expand on that?" He shook his head once, then added, "You're asking about a story I'm not writing." And walked away. No drama, no exit music. Just cleats on cement. And quiet. Briggs found him in the tunnel a few minutes later. "You good?" Owen nodded. Briggs smirked. "You're gonna make a few people upset." Owen shrugged and then said, "They'll get over it." The stadium was nearly dark, just a few bulbs burning above the third deck. The rest of the city hummed. Traffic, distant radios, voices from somewhere just out of reach. But down here in the cage, it was still. The way it used to be. The way it always should have been. Owen stood at the edge of the dirt, bat in one hand, glove in the other. No tee set up yet, no ball placed. He didn't move, just looked out across the netting. Let the moment settle. The postseason was 3 days away. Everything would get louder, crowds, coverage, consequence. But this moment didn't ask anything from him. Didn't want a quote or a swing or a win. Just his presence. He walked in, set Hal's glove down gently on the bench, turned once in a slow circle, then stepped to the plate. No pitcher, no machine, just the empty space where the ball would be. He raised the bat, paused, then let it fall to his side, and breathed. Outside, lights blinked on above the concourse. The park was waking up. And he was ready for it. Not because he had mastered the noise, but because he had learned not to fear the silence beneath it. The lights were different in October, not brighter exactly, just harder, whiter, like they didn't want to leave any shadow untouched. The field looked like a movie set. Grass trimmed lower than usual. Infield dirt raked to the grain. Paint sharp on the foul lines. Every logo polished, every camera already awake. Owen stepped onto the field an hour before first pitch, glove in hand, bat resting on his shoulder. No music yet, no crowd. Just stadium workers moving like ghosts in the margins. He walked the outfield edge. Kicked once at the warning track, then settled by the bullpen gate and waited. He wasn't scheduled to pitch tonight, but in October everything flexed. Starters didn't last, rolls bent. He had his spikes on, and his name was on the card, just in case. One of the rookies jogged past him, wide-eyed, paused, turned back. "Hey, Kilroy." Owen looked up. The kid motioned at the stands. This feels bigger than anything. Owen thought about that and then said, "It's just baseball." The lights don't swing. The kid blinked, then smiled, jogged off. He watched them warm up. Pitchers, catchers. The slow choreography of routine turned sacred under pressure. Then he stepped into the cage. No cameras in here, not yet. Just a tee, a ball, and time. He took 5 swings, not hard, not lazy, just true. The ball didn't soar, it moved. Then he set the bat down and waited. Top of the 5th. Man on second, nobody out. The starter had lost his edge, curveballs drifting, fastballs falling flat. Briggs gave the signal without theatrics. Owen stood, didn't rush. Just slipped on his glove, picked up the ball, and walked to the mound. The crowd noticed late, then swelled. Not all cheers, not all anything, just sound. The batter stepped in, lefty, contact hitter, quick hands. Owen didn't study him, didn't scan the tablet in the dugout. He just looked, saw the weight shift in his hips, the way his knuckles curled the bat too tight. Then delivered the first pitch, low and in. Ball. Second, same spot, swing and foul. Third, changeup. Tap to the right side, easy play, runner holds. 1 out. Next batter, fly out to shallow left. Then a strikeout on a sinker that bent just enough. 3 outs. Clean, quiet. Like Hal used to say, a good inning disappears. Briggs left him in, 6th inning. He threw 12 more pitches, 1 hit, 1 strikeout, 1 double play. When he walked off the mound, he didn't glance at the scoreboard, just handed the ball to the coach. Picked up his bat, waited. His at-bat came in the 7th. Man on first, no outs. He didn't swing hard, didn't swing early, took 2 pitches, then reached out and tapped a soft grounder down the third baseline. The third baseman had 1 play, first. The runner advanced. That was all. No celebration, no fist pump. Just execution. Later, at first base, he made the stretch on a low throw, kept the inning from unraveling. The crowd roared. He stood up, brushed his pants. Didn't tip his cap, didn't smile, just reset. Baseball and nothing more, nothing less. 1 out, runner on second, game tied, bottom of the 9th. Owen adjusted his gloves once, stepped in. The pitcher was 23, fast, loose, too eager. You could see it in his eyes. He wanted the strikeout, wanted the highlight. Owen didn't want anything. Not contact, not applause, not even the win, just the pitch. First one high and wild. Ball 1, second fastball, outer half. He let it go. Third pitch came fast again, same location. He knew it'd be there. Turned the barrel inside out and tapped it the other way. Soft clean. Right past the second baseman's reach. The runner took third. No throw. Owen stopped at first. Didn't look around, didn't point. Just dropped his bat and jogged. The next batter stepped in. Owen took a short lead. Didn't glance at the dugout, didn't need signs. Pitch came in. Crack, high fly to center. Runner tagged. Owen watched the play, not the scoreboard. Runner slid, safe. Game over. The crowd lifted into itself like a wave. Owen turned, jogged in, didn't celebrate, didn't linger. Just passed his teammates. Nodded once, and walked down the tunnel. The music was still faint. No dancing, just towels, low voices, a few claps. The kind of win that felt like progress, not arrival. Owen sat at his locker, shirt on, cleats off, glove resting on the bench beside him. Someone passed him a bottle of Gatorade. He nodded, drank. The TV above the lockers played highlights, muted. He glanced once, saw himself on screen, swing, jog, nothing more. He looked away. A reporter hovered in the hallway. Briggs stepped between them. "Not tonight," he said. Owen didn't hear it, didn't need to. He leaned back. Let his shoulders fall, let the air around him settle. No weight, no ache, no rush, just presence. Someone laughed across the room. Another player tapped out a text. A rookie peeled athletic tape from his wrist like it was a ritual. Owen sat still. Not because he was tired, not because he was thinking, but because stillness was the only thing that made the rest make sense. The gate creaked when it opened. Same sound as always. Rust in the hinge. Weight in the metal. Owen stepped out into the night. No fans waited, no chants, no photos. Just street lights and the soft tick of cooling cars in the lot. He zipped his jacket halfway, tucked Hal's glove under one arm. Didn't put in earbuds, didn't pull out his phone, just walked. The sidewalk was damp, leaves stuck to the curb like loose ideas. The traffic light changed without a car in sight. He crossed anyway. Slow. Not dragging his feet, just feeling them. Each step, every contact with the world. Above, a plane blinked red over the city, far enough away to be quiet. He looked once, then let it go. He turned onto his street, past the diner, the windows steamed from late-night coffee. He didn't go in, didn't need to. At his door, he paused, looked back once at the skyline, at the glow of the stadium lights still humming behind the trees, then opened the door, stepped inside and closed it. Softly,